In this video, I'm taking us to London, England. Our main goal is to see the grave of Douglas Adams. But first, in case you're new here, I'm Snider. I write books, I give talks, and I do a lot of research, and I love sharing what I find here with you on YouTube. Douglas Adams is a writer, and he's best known for Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Now, I used to watch that as a TV show, but I have an embarrassing confession. I have actually never read the book. Have you read the book? Let me know in the comments below and tell me why I should read it. Douglas Adams was only 49 years old when he died of a heart attack. This was back in May 11th of 2001. Now, he's buried in Highgate Cemetery in London. This is a very famous cemetery. A lot of other famous people are buried there, and it has some amazing memorials there. So I'm going to take us on a little tour, a little sideline, so we'll get to see some of the other famous graves and just get the feel for Highgate Cemetery on our way to see Douglas Adams' headstone. I also had a surprise when I was putting this video together. I came across a headstone that at the time, I think the symbolism behind it just went whoosh, right over my head. I think I just thought, those penguins are cute. I did not connect the dots. So when we get there, let me know what you think about the conclusions I made, because I didn't have time to really do thorough research on this. I just started spinning off on like, what does this mean? Maybe this means this. And the reason for that is because I wanted to get this video done before May 25th, because May 25th is Towel Day. Yes, this is not some strange fashion accessory. This is actually a little towel that I have, because what happens is every year on May 25th, Douglas Adams fans wear towels or carry a towel around with them all day long. And then when people ask them about, why do you have a towel with you, they start telling them about Douglas Adams. So it's very absurd. And it's great that it's absurd because a lot of the humor from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was very absurd. I mean, Douglas Adams really seemed to understand the absurdities of life, and I think that's why I love him so much. By the way, if you want to support the research and work that I do, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and remember to tap that bell icon so you will never miss my new videos when they come out. And since we're in London today, after our cemetery tour, we're going to grab a cup of coffee, catch some street magic, and then we're going to go down by the River Thames and have a nice drink in a lovely pub. Sound good? All right, let's get going. In London, there's a group of burial grounds known as the Magnificent Seven. And yes, if that sounds like the 1960 Western movie of the same name, that's because an architectural historian named Hugh Mellor was inspired by that movie title when he came up with the title Magnificent Seven back in the 1980s. So the Magnificent Seven refers to the first for-profit burial grounds permitted in the London area in the early 1800s. They are located on what was at the time the outskirts of the city, and this was because London's public cemeteries had run out of room, and it was more hygienic to move the bodies out of the main city. The day I visited Highgate Cemetery, it was quite crowded at the entrance, but shortly after passing through the gates, the crowds melted away. Highgate is a garden cemetery, and as you can see, it's quite lush. It sprawls over 37 acres, which is 15 hectares for you metrically minded folks. You can easily get lost in Highgate Cemetery, but happily lost. It is so beautiful. And there's way too much to see in one visit. Take a look at these pathways and check out this gorgeous sleeping angel. For many years, she was completely covered with ivy. No one knew she was there. You don't have to take a paid tour, but I highly recommend it. You will learn a lot about the cemetery symbols, also about the history, and your guide can help you find any particular headstones that you may be looking for. Although the cemetery does provide some really good maps as well. My tour group was kind of funny because it was me, my stepdaughter, and a group of British bikers, who were quite friendly, by the way. I took so many photos that day. I kept falling behind the tour group and then I'd run to catch up with them. But it was just wonderful. Highgate is just enchanting. Highgate Cemetery is truly an open-air museum full of interesting stories. In the 1970s, there were even some vampire sightings. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like me to do a video about those vampire sightings sometime. It's a pretty crazy tale. Now, Douglas Adams isn't the only famous person buried in Highgate Cemetery. During my visit, I also saw Malcolm McLaren, the provocative music producer who managed those famous punk rockers known as the Sex Pistols. Karl Marx is another controversial figure buried in Highgate. What I love about the Karl Marx grave is how on brand his epitaph is. There's none of that soothing Victorian rhetoric like "asleep in Jesus." His just says, "Workers of the world, unite." Here's the grave for Gustav Mahler's daughter Anne. She was a sculptor. And I love this grand piano monument. Isn't it gorgeous? And here are a couple more authors. Alan Sillitoe. I'm not familiar with his work, but he was considered one of the quote-unquote angry young men writers of the 1950s. And here's the grave of Jeremy Beadle. I love that it looks like a bookshelf. And that epitaph, "Ask my friends." I wonder what they would tell us about him. I'm really not familiar with him, but I love what he stands for here. It says he's a writer, presenter, and a curator of oddities. That sounds right up my alley. And this one is gorgeous. Who says modern tombstones have to be boring? Isn't it great how this one spells out the word dead? Very creative. At first glance, I thought Jim Stanford Horn must have worked for Penguin Books. And maybe he did, but that publishing house uses only one penguin in its logo. Penguins are sometimes used as a symbol for the gay community, and if you look closer, you can see that there's room at the end of the word partner, so you could add an S eventually and make it plural to say partners. There's also room on the front cover of the book here, below Stanford's name, so you could put another person's name. So eventually it could say partners, Jim Stanford, and then someone else below it, perhaps. In which case these two penguins on here could be symbolizing the love between these two men. So maybe this is the grave for a gay couple. I really don't know for sure. I need to do more research on this. In any case, it's a very clever headstone. Along the spine, it even reads "The Final Chapter," as if that's the title of the book. Douglas Adams' headstone simply reads, "Douglas Adams, writer, 1952 to 2001. Although it's quite a modest monument compared to so many of the other ones at Highgate, the natural beauty of this gorgeous garden cemetery make it feel quite special. Fans have left stones there, as well as pens and pencils. I don't usually leave items at grave sites, but I felt moved to leave a pen behind when I saw Adam's grave. I wonder if it's still there. What do stones, coins, seashells, and other items mean in cemeteries? Check out my book Grave Goods and you'll learn all about it. As we left the cemetery, I noticed this little mobile coffee shop. It's called Ape Man and the Bean, and the guy who runs it is really cool. I bought some of his coffee, and I also got an espresso. It was very well made, so tasty. If you ever go to Highgate Cemetery, make sure you buy something from him while you're there. On the way home, we stopped and watched my friend Owen perform street magic. And then we caught the tube. And the sun was nearly setting by the time we got home. So we walked down to the river, got ourselves a couple of frosty pims, and then my stepdaughter and I, we just enjoyed the rest of our day together.